welcome back to Better Than Yesterday. My name is Michael Jans van Rensburg, and as always, I'm joined by my very good friend Daniel Hammond, and we are here to talk to you guys today about we are here to have a discussion, hey man, about the different types of
Yes, sir.
lifestyles that you can lead and pursue as a young person, and specifically as a young man. Daniel and I,
Mm-hmm.
as you can maybe hear or see, are examples of young men, and we wanted to talk about the different types of lifestyles that you can aim to pursue. As young men, at this phase of your life, you're almost always thinking ahead about what kind of person do you want to be in a few years. Because when you're 20, 21 years old, let's say, you're not aiming to stay in this place forever. You're almost aiming to build
Mm-hmm.
yourself up to be a certain type of person in a few years. So we're gonna,
Yeah.
yeah, man, get into the discussion of just what type of person you can actually aim to be, maybe the common threads that we seem to see in people around us, and what we aim to do in our lives, man. I think it'll be quite a fruitful discussion, man. But I wanted to ask, bro, how's things going there in Windhoek, in Rehoboth, in Namibia? It's been a while since I've been there, so let us know what's happening in that side of the world.
Yeah, no, so things are going pretty well here. There's just quite like a debate on same-sex marriages. I think there's a
Sure,
lot of like politics going on around that, but I haven't really
worldwide, yeah,
gotten
sure.
involved myself. Yeah.
Mm,
So that's basically the latest that's happening in Namibia in terms of like viral news and
mm.
a lot that's happening. Personally, I'm getting nearly finishing up with my first semester for the year. So pretty excited to get into the holiday and just like rest, reset, refocus. But yeah, no, things are going well personally. And how are you doing, man?
Yeah, bro, it's icy cold here in Cape Town. The city is doing well, I would say. Things are moving forward. But we got a lot of load shedding. Power is off for how many hours a day, and it's icy cold. So you can imagine that sometimes is a bit difficult. But things are going well, man. I've been currently working on these big projects that I've got for university. One is developing a website for a business. Another one is developing
Yeah,
developing an application for a business. So doing lots of programming,
sure.
sitting at my
Pretty
computer
interesting.
all day, every day. But yeah, man, it's going very well, man. And yeah, excited to be on this video with you, man. It's been a while. We've both been leading such busy lifestyles, but I think like you say, we've got holidays coming up soon. So excited to pump out a bit more content then and have just more conversations, man.
Yes, definitely. For sure, bro. Looking
Yeah,
forward
bro.
to it.
So how much time would you say do you think about the kind of man that you want to be? Like, do you spend a lot of time thinking about like what type of lifestyle you end up want to pursue, or is it something that's not on your mind so much?
Yeah, no, I would say it is on my mind a lot. I tend to think a lot of how things are going to work out, like where I'll be located once
Mm,
I'm done with studies, how it's going to be like in the work life. Sometimes you have a bit of like, like nervousness going into it. You don't know
yeah.
exactly how it's going to look, which I think all of us do. But then a lot of times I just have to remind myself that you just have to, take it as it comes and
Yeah.
like put that faith in God to know that it's gonna be good. And yeah, as long as you're putting in the hard work and you're working towards something, I think the results aren't gonna be that bad, eh? So yeah, it's something that I think about a lot. Like I've especially now since studies is coming to an end. I'm in my third year, just have 1 year next. Like next year is going to be my last year, so last year left. Then you tend to start thinking about the future, like what's my next step, what
Mm,
I'm going to do, how life's going to look afterwards, because there's not this fixed system that you're going to be in anymore. Like
that's the thing.
what we had with school, you knew you're going to the next grade and the next grade, and with university, you knew you're going to the next year.
Mm,
But now afterwards, like it's totally left up to you, kind of like in a
it's a lot
in
of
a
pressure.
certain way. Obviously, yes, there's a lot of pressure. Obviously, there's external factors and influences of, like what happens in your life, but there's a certain amount that you can control. But yeah, I think a lot about how fast I'm going to be able to reach the goals that I want to. But then, you have to also think about being patient. And
Mm,
yeah, there's a lot of times you think of how you're going to how you're going to live, like what lifestyle do you want to pursue. And I guess that's what we're going to be discussing today. As a example, what I think about is, at what age do I necessarily think I'll be ready to get married? We can't we can't totally control that. It can happen at any time, but
Very
obviously
true.
you sort of have an idea in your mind of like, do you think you want to get settled in your mid 20s or in your 30s? So there's a lot that you think
Big
about,
questions, man.
and
Yeah.
yeah, big questions. As a guy, I think that I would want to settle down when I know I'm stable and I'm also ready to provide and run a household.
Mm. Sure,
Yeah.
man. That's very true, man. It's funny that you touched there on like being patient because I know quite early on to this channel's, life, you could say, we made a video about like why it's so important to be patient as a young person.
Yes.
So we had a whole conversation about that, but you have to keep reminding yourself of that constantly, I think, because I think both you and I
Definitely.
are, like forward-thinking people in that we like to think ahead and kind of in line
Mm-hmm.
with today's video, we're thinking about not who are we right now, but who are we going to be in a few years. Yeah, so it's very
Yes.
interesting, man. But let's hop into it, bro. So I know we made a few different like points that we can go down of just yeah. I think these are things
Mm-hmm.
that we've just seen around us. Yeah, you see it around you in the world today, and just different lifestyles that um, let's say men specifically tend to lead. But I think a lot of this can apply even if you are a woman watching, and I'm sure it'll be an interesting conversation. So I think the first one that we thought of here, man, was and it's it's quite relevant, is that
Yeah.
almost that Andrew Tate lifestyle, bro. And that's been quite glamorized recently. We gave it the title "Successful Playboy Type Lifestyle," bro. And this is something that you can pursue.
Yes,
And
sir.
I know a lot of young men. It appeals to a lot of young men, bro. And I don't think we are
Yes.
um immune to that, like we it appeals as a
Mm-hmm.
young man in that yeah, it's the kind of lifestyle where you almost are you're pursuing pleasures and wealth and that kind of stuff, so it'll be
Yes,
yeah, like going for those
definitely.
big cars, trying to look and like to look rich and flex a bit, yeah, it's the kind of lifestyle that is definitely attractive because there's a lot that comes with it. You're always looking for the next big thing. How can you, there's a lot of status, I think, that comes with having that kind of lifestyle because if you're driving the nicest car, if you, have a lot of, I mean, these guys tend to go with like a lot of different partners, or let's say even it's just like someone who's like very attractive on your arm. You know what I mean? Like you see a guy like Andrew Tate
Yeah.
and you're like, that's the way to go. But what do you think of that kind of lifestyle, bro? Like, do you think that's something that young men should be aiming for? Let me know your thoughts, man.
Yeah, so personally, I don't think it's a lifestyle that young men should be pursuing. Like, yes, you should definitely pursue the hard work as you
Amen.
see like Andrew Tate put in, and all
Yeah,
of these guys that show us different examples. Like First Man as well. He's another example.
yeah.
But yeah,
I think there's a lot of
as we know,
discipline that it
Andrew Tate,
takes to get that kind of lifestyle here.
yes.
But yeah,
Yeah, as you know, like Andrew Tate is trending and he's pretty popular amongst young men at the moment. And he's just showing like them like what you can achieve. You have to be this sort of, like you said, disciplined, strong men,
mm,
um always like putting in the work and not just being lazy. So the discipline side is definitely something that I do recommend, and just like going for your goals. But I don't think there's longevity in having all these different
like the
partners. If
flashy.
you look at the
Mm,
reality, yes,
mm,
there's like, if you look at the reality behind that, there's dark sides, because you later on you might catch a sickness.
yeah,
There's different things, there's emotional damage that you can cause yourself and those people. But also with always wanting to be flashy, it can, if you don't manage it well, it can lead you to going into debt, and just at the end of the day becoming depressed, because you're flashing and you're showing people all of this, and as you do this, you get pressured to keep doing better and better, and just showing bigger, more expensive cars, bigger housing,
Yeah,
and
I
just
agree, man.
like you try and make the life more and more glamorous and just want to see more and more successful, which is quite difficult to maintain.
I agree, man. Yeah, like we said, man. There's a lot of like exciting things about that, and it's always cool
Hmm.
to have status and people looking up to you. But I think I agree with what I see in that lifestyle that I like is the
Hmm.
like the pursuit of wealth. I think is something that's not inherent. Well, I mean, often there's a lot of critiques about the pursuit of wealth, to be fair. But I think aiming
Yes,
to be successful is definitely not a bad thing. And
it's not
if
not bad at all.
but I think to me, what looks slightly different for me, successful isn't necessarily like having the Lambo, having
Mm-mm.
a big like, you know, I know First Man, like his big goal was always to have like a apartment, a penthouse apartment, which is awesome.
Yes.
So success looks different for people, and I think that's but that kind of lifestyle is being glamorized at the moment. And if that's what appeals to you a lot, then that's great. But that's why this is all a conversation. We sort of this is actually we wanted to have this as part of our wrestling with topics series, man, because we just playing
Yes.
around with all the different lifestyles that you can pursue. We're not saying that this lifestyle is wrong necessarily, but we're just giving our thoughts and opinions on it here, man. So I think for me, so the kind of success that I would look for looks slightly different, man. And I think we'll definitely get into the kind of lifestyle that appeals to us. But yeah, with regards to this one, I think the issue with flexing and like you say that flashy lifestyle so much is like you say the ability to maintain it because they often say there's a difference between looking rich and like actually being rich.
Hmm.
So some guys they can get like a sports car, but let's say it's like the entry, like the lowest entry version of like a sports car. But they spend all their money on that because they want to be that guy who drives a sports car. So that money, if you had to spend like half your savings on that car, then it probably could have been better spent. So I think
Hmm.
that kind of lifestyle, you really have to put yourself up to a very high point to actually get there. And like you say, there's a lot of things that come with the lifestyle of um, sleeping around and that kind of stuff. And yeah, I think
Yeah.
as a Christian, that kind of stuff just doesn't sit well in your conscience, man. So I think I,
Hmm.
I would agree, man. For me, it's something that appeals, but I think I see a better way for my life, for sure.
Definitely. Yeah. No, I agree with that. And especially in, this day and age, there's so many different lifestyles that we are being exposed to as
Mm,
we look on social media, as we find people around us. So it's not just that traditional lifestyle of finishing studies or getting a work, start like find someone to settle down with, get married, have children. that's
sure.
that's
Yeah.
kind of the set thing. And in small communities especially, you'll still see that this is how
Mm,
success looks like for people in
mm,
that community. That is another, like, that's how they define their success. Just being comfortable enough to have a family, have a wife, get your children through school, retire, go settle perhaps on a farm or at an old age home or somewhere along the coast. So
mm.
this is like how people looked at it traditionally, and this
That
is
was the
kind of
traditional views, yeah.
how, yes, how society would want people to run life and look at the different stages. But with us, there's so many different things that we can pursue and
Sure.
lifestyles that we could go for. For example, another lifestyle that I would like to hear your opinion on is just being a traveler,
Mm,
spending, like, let's say, for example, you spend as little money as possible during a year or 2 years, and then you drive quite a small car. You don't stay in the biggest accommodation. You might just have like a one-bedroom apartment, but then you've got like a lot of excess cash to travel to different countries. What would you think about having such a lifestyle for yourself?
sure. So I've definitely seen that here. I know a lot of young people out of high school, they start doing that like traveling lifestyle. I don't know if
Hmm.
this is a big thing in the rest of the world, but like I know here in Cape Town, what a lot of
Yeah.
young people do is they get their I think it's called a deckhand. You do this little course about being a deckhand,
Hmm.
and then you go and your mission then is to go over to Europe and then start serving on the yachts and that kind of stuff. And there's a lot, like a
Mm-hmm.
lot of young people my age that are pursuing that type of lifestyle, bro. And you know, what's amazing about that is you're seeing different parts of the world. I mean, I often am quite envious in that, yeah, those people are like partying it up in Europe, like in France, then
Yeah.
they're working on a yacht. Look, to be fair, they do work very hard on those yachts. They're
Yes,
like
they
it's
do.
like all day every
Yeah.
day, but then I think they get their weekends off perhaps, and then they're able to go and enjoy and see some of the sights. So you see it a
Mm-hmm.
lot with people our age, and it's definitely another example of a lifestyle that you can pursue is traveling. And like you say, I think the priorities in that one are different. Hey, you're not focused so much on getting all these big assets in the place that you are. You almost, like you say, you're saving money up to just go and travel to the next place and then travel to the next place. And like you say, you're probably staying in like, I mean, we saw those backpackers, when I came through to
Yes.
Swakopmund there in Namibia, there's those
Mm-hmm.
examples of like those hotels where you pay minimal amounts per night and you're able to stay there for quite a while. And people often doing that. I think there was people that were
Yes.
staying there with us who were doing that kind of thing, just traveling. They were
Yeah,
traveling
yeah.
through Africa, but for us as Africans, we often like to travel through different continents. So, it's always about getting a taste of something different. I think
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot that appeals about this lifestyle. I think um, the amount of memories that you build up is almost priceless. I know we spoke about like how travel can be very valuable because yeah, just those kind of memories and also it just builds you up as a person to experience different cultures, to hear different languages, see how people are living on a completely different side of the world. You learn like a lot from it, and I know a lot of older people who have said that that's like the thing they wish they did. So I see a lot
Yeah.
of value in it. The only thing is, again, I think I just wonder, with this type of lifestyle, is like, how long can you do that for? If you're not making a lot of money, like, how do you keep on raise? I know what a lot of people do is they get money from their parents to do this kind of thing, and then
Yeah.
I guess if you're doing the yachting, you do start to make money, and then you can save that and then use that for your next trip and so on. But yeah, at some point you will want something like stable. And
Yes.
yeah, I think it's a lifestyle that is like you'll enjoy it and have a lot of fun for quite a few years. But I think at some point you'll need to realize, okay, I need to build something, because if you're always like building up a little bit and then moving, building up a little bit and then moving, you don't have that foundation. And that's something we talk about a lot in this channel, is like building up foundation.
Yeah.
So I think that's
No,
the one thing you
definitely.
miss. That's the one thing you miss with that
Mm.
lifestyle.
Yeah, and I think if you're always going to be, traveling, it might also get lonely at some point. I know
Sure.
what this one guy, also I reside at a backpackers, but like um at a fixed time period in
Mm,
Windhoek. So there's also like always a lot of tourists coming through, whether it be like Germans or Italians or Dutch. There's like Chinese as well. So what this one guy, I can't properly remember now, but I think he's like from Puerto Rico or one of
sure.
those like countries there in like Southern America. But he says what he would do is for 5 years, perhaps, he works and he saves up. Then what he does is he takes leave for like 6 or 12 months. Then he would go and volunteer at this different like places in Africa and just travel and see that area. So for
Sure.
him, that's something that, fulfills him, going there to help disadvantaged people and just being able to have that experience. And he says it's really humbling. It helps him to realize how blessed he is in his daily life. So in that regard, it would make it quite an appealing lifestyle. But
Mm,
what can be true as well is that, you'll meet all of these different people, but you know that you have to go back to your hometown to work again.
sure.
And yeah, like you said,
I
it
have
might
heard
get
that, yeah.
lonely.
Your heart gets sort of
Yeah.
torn between a couple of places, yeah. Yeah.
Yes, yes, that's
Hmm,
exactly what happens. So I think, if you're going to be pursuing this and you want to settle down sometime along the line, you kind of you have to balance it out. You have to plan accordingly and see how this happens. But yeah, that's just an opinion that I have on it.
Yeah, man. It's very interesting because all of these things I mean we'll see people around us choosing all these different lifestyles. Not everyone's going to go down the same
Hmm.
path. So that's why I think it's interesting to have
No.
this conversation, because you see it with people around you, and we're going to end up choosing one path, and who knows if
Yeah.
that'll be the right one. Other people might look at us and be like, those guys are living such a boring lifestyle. Who knows, man. So that's why it's interesting to have a conversation, man. Yeah, so I think another example of a career, or a what's the word, a lifestyle that you can pursue, um, would be the influencer type lifestyle, man.
Hmm.
So that's also something that's I know there's always this, like, this is quoted quite a lot by like old people. They always say, but it's like it is a fact that apparently like a very high percentage, like the highest percentage of young people in America, and I think America is quite reflective of the rest of the world, let's say,
Hmm.
the number one job that they want to have is like to be a YouTuber, you know? So it's
Sure.
definitely
Yeah.
something that appeals to like young people. And I think the reason for that, again, is status that comes with that, fame. I think that kind of thing
Hmm.
can always seem very attractive. And I know for you and I, we definitely went through a period where that was something that we were like looking for, or just it
Yes,
appealed, and it was like, oh,
definitely.
that would be great to have at some point in the future. So like an
Yeah.
influencer type lifestyle is that your life's on camera. That means you're always like filming what you're doing. You have to be, whether it's on Instagram, you can do TikTok, you can do YouTube, but you're kind of living for like content, trying to
Hmm.
come up with different types of content that you can make. Yeah, I must say this lifestyle is something that does appeal to me, but because I definitely see, I mean, we're on YouTube at the moment, and it's something that I really enjoy doing. Um,
Yeah.
I think it's something, it's quite difficult to touch on almost, because in South Africa you don't see it, and Namibia. I mean, I don't know about you, man, but it's not something you see as much in
No,
our
not a
countries.
lot.
There's not a lot of people that are going down the influencer route and really seeing like too much success. So it's difficult to sort of
Hmm.
follow that example, but they definitely are. But and it's starting to become
Yeah,
more and
and
more.
it's starting to pick
And
up. Yeah, it's
yeah, it
picking up a
is. It
lot
is.
these days in
It is.
SA
Yeah.
as well. Like especially in Cape Town, eh? There's quite
No,
a
you're right.
few popular guys. Yeah.
You're right. There is people that are starting to get some traction. So yeah, I think this kind of lifestyle. Yeah, I think the only downside that comes with that, they say, I live on YouTube, and in that I used to watch so many different people who have spoken about it, and I think the amazing thing is that you're your own boss, so you decide when you post,
Hmm.
but at the same time you end up becoming a bit of a slave to what your followers want sometimes, or what you think will be trending.
Yes.
So you're always like,
Hmm.
as something new comes up, you're like, oh, let me hop on that train, try and talk about that, or let me like pretend I'm doing this cool thing. So I think there's some interesting things that come with it, but I think it's quite an attractive lifestyle. And for me, it's actually something that does appeal a little bit.
Yeah. So yeah, with this, there's definitely a lot of pros and then there's cons as well. So what I've noticed is, yeah, I've also watched a lot of YouTube growing up, and you see that from like a young age, these guys are doing their YouTube, and then a lot of them sort of phase out into different career
Yeah,
paths.
that
Like
is true. That
they
is true.
they take on the opportunities that YouTube open for them, because they've got these views. They go into different types of things, like you'd see KSI, Logan Paul, these guys go into boxing, they start businesses, obviously
Yeah.
because they've got this huge following, so they know there's going to be a lot of demand for whatever product they bring out, just
Mm,
because the people want the product because of the name behind it. So there's that you can go, that you see they go into acting, sometimes they go into wrestling, and this
mm,
is because with YouTube you're not necessarily your true self. But it depends on the content you bring out. Obviously, I
mm.
think when it comes to what's popular these days as well is like the podcast type styles, like
It
kind of
is.
like
It is.
our YouTube channel. So that's where you kind of talk about like your reality, what's going on in your personal life, or just experiences and lessons that you'd want to bring across to other people. So there's different types of it. But what definitely can be a con is that you're always going to, if this is your full-time job, you're always going to be chasing views. And like you
Mm,
said, you're going to be going on these different trends because you have to stay relevant because this is
yep.
your income. And if you don't get the views, you don't get the income. So there's definitely that pressure of always having to have a certain type of persona to stay relevant, because go against it and you might just lose all your followings. You can suddenly just get cancelled by saying the wrong thing. So it's like you're always going to be walking on eggshells, and yeah, it's going to be difficult. You're not going to have the normal life as well, because in public people are going to know you, they want to be taking pictures. So there's a lot of it just means that your life is always going to be public, and there's a lot of like
Yeah,
downside to that. You lose a lot of your
privacy.
privacy.